7 things the narcissist doesn't feel. People make a frequent mistake about our kind and say, "You don't have any emotions." Wrong. We do, but we don't have as many as you do. And, besides particular emotions that are missing, there are other aspects of the personality that you have that we do not. Here are 7 of those things that we don't feel. Number 1, remorse. There is no point in remorse. Remorse holds you back. Remorse weakens you. Remorse means giving control to somebody else because of the admission of making a mistake. That allows that individual to hold something over you, and in turn, that threatens control. And thus remorse is not something that we have. Not genuine remorse. Yes, those walnut-balled, mealy-mouthed, cowardly mid-rangers are purveyors of fake remorse on a regular basis, ladling it out. "I'm so sorry for what I've done. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I apologize for my behavior. What can I do to put things right?" They're all manipulations. They are narcissists, and therefore there can be no remorse. Remorse is unnecessary for us because it would slow us down. It would hinder us with regard to the application of control over you and would diminish our capability for the acquisition of our lifeblood, that is fuel. Remorse is not for us. Remorse is for others. We do not have the capability about us to be genuinely remorseful because it serves no purpose for us. And therefore, it was never created within one such as us because it would hinder our pursuit of the prime aims. We must be effective, and that means remorse is not something that we feel. Yes, some of our kind will exhibit it, but it isn't genuine. It is never felt. Number 2, happiness. We don't do happy. We don't feel it. What we feel is power. Of course, the narcissist will say, "I feel so happy today. I'm happy to see you. It's been a really happy occasion. I'm feeling happy." But that is because the narcissist is saying this, governed by the narcissism, in order to fit in. A lesser and mid-range narcissist believes that they feel happy, but it is actually the effect of the fuel making them feel powerful, and the narcissism causes them to believe that it is happiness, but it's not. If that narcissist was to say, "Oh, I feel powerful today," or "I'm feeling particularly well-fueled," that would cause some rather strange looks from individuals. And that would, of course, lead to a disruption to the fuel matrix and a threat to control. So the narcissism doesn't allow the narcissist to say those things where lesser or mid-range. Where greater or ultra, we know we don't feel happy. We know that it is not part of our emotional makeup, and we know that what we experience is the power that comes from being fueled. Of course, we similarly will talk about being happy in order to maintain that facade so that we fit in, that we are camouflaged, that we move amongst you with the maximum effectiveness. But we don't do happy. And do not be caught out by thinking that this absence of feeling happy means that we feel bad about that. Remember, the lesser or mid-range narcissists think they're happy, so there is nothing for them to miss because they believe they are that way. And the greater and ultra, we know we're not, but it doesn't matter because we'd much rather have the power. We're not interested in happiness. You don't miss something that you've never had. And this then leads us on to number 3, sadness. We don't do happiness and we don't do sadness. We are not sad. Yes, we become irritated, furious annoyed, frustrated, but we don't actually feel sad. There may, with those mid-range narcissists, be considerable lashings of self-pity, which are exhibited as apparent sadness. But it is false. The narcissist doesn't feel sad for themselves or particularly for other people. Certain narcissists exhibit self-pity, of that there is no doubt, but we don't experience sadness. Again, of course, the lesser and mid-range narcissists, not realizing what they are, believe that they feel sad because the narcissism causes them to be that way. But in order to experience sadness for somebody else, and in the same way as feeling happiness for somebody else, would require emotional empathy, and we don't have it. The narcissist doesn't feel happy for himself because he receives fuel, which makes him feel powerful. The narcissist doesn't feel sad. That emotion is absent. To feel sad would again slow us down and would hinder us. Of course, again, certain narcissists will give the appearance of being sad, either to draw sympathy, which is fuel and enables them to assert control, or for the purposes of fitting in, part of the facade, looking sad at a funeral, feeling sorry for somebody because of their loss. There is no emotional empathy there to generate that sadness. Instead, all there is the manipulative wiles of the narcissism, causing the relevant narcissist to appear sad, to fit in, and to manipulate and control, to draw the fuel. Lesser narcissists often don't even exhibit that fake sadness, and there is a disconnect between their appearance and what is going on around them. The mid-rangers, they do the appearance of sadness and do it rather effectively, sickeningly so. Greater and ultra may say a few words, but generally are aloof. There will be no tears. There will be no wailing and gnashing of teeth, not like the amdram behaviour of a mid-range type A at a funeral. But we don't feel sad. We don't feel that sadness inside in the way that you do. We would feel irritation at somebody's expiration because we have lost an appliance in the fuel matrix. We may feel furious about that because we've been wounded by that person's departure. Of course, the narcissist will talk about feeling sad as part of the way that the narcissism operates to cause them to fit in, but we don't experience it. Number 4, joy. Going beyond happiness, joy or ecstasy, euphoria, again, we don't experience. What we do feel is even more powerful as a consequence of the lashings of fuel that are provided to us. And once again, the unaware, lesser and mid-range narcissist may talk about being overjoyed, but it is a part of the manipulation, with the mid-range a part of the facade, and it is a means of fitting in, again for the purposes of asserting control and drawing fuel. But there is no joy, either feeling joyous for themselves and certainly not for anybody else. Because again, to feel joyous for another would require emotional empathy, and we have none. The greater narcissist and the ultra, we know that we don't experience joy, but again, for the purposes of facade management, we will talk about being overjoyed, that it is a joyous occasion, and joy to the world. Number 5, contentment. We are never content. Lesser and mid-range narcissists particularly feel the presence of the chasm, the abyss. They don't know what it is. They don't know what's going on. But beneath the fake grin, there is the itch that always must be scratched, the restlessness, the need to be driving forward. There is no contentment. The greater and the ultra don't so much feel restlessness in the sense of unease as often as the lesser and mid-range narcissists do. But even we do not feel contentment. For us, it is a different type of the absence of contentment. With the lesser and mid-range, their inability to achieve contentment is as a consequence of their inability to get even close to filling the abyss. And therefore, at varying times, there is a mild discomfort ranging to the full-on fuel crisis and everything in between in terms of the sensation of unease, dread, impending doom, an antsy sensation, not being able to settle. And that is because of the dropping fuel levels and their lower effectiveness at drawing fuel compared to the greater and the ultra. With the greater and the ultra, it is not so much about those feelings of unease that are experienced by the lesser and mid-range narcissist, but rather a lack of contentment because there is always something to be done, always something to achieve, another scheme to implement, more people to control, countries to govern, industries to build, competitors to destroy, espionage to engage in, tours to embark upon, new horizons to embrace, new frontiers to ride into. It's never enough for us. The world is not enough. We are always questing, seeking, striving. Of course, this can provide many benefits because of the need to impress, the need to discover, the need to invent, the need to succeed. And these are the innovators, the pioneers and entrepreneurs that you are familiar with. Many of them come from our kind. But we don't have that contentment. Even when we can acknowledge that we have achieved success, there is more success that can be achieved. Even when we have created one industry, there's another one that can be built. There is always something to address, and therefore, whichever type of narcissist that you come across, we never experience contentment in the way that you do. And there is that enviness of, or rather there is that envy of your contentment. And listen to the video, Envious of Your Contentment, to understand more about that. Number 6, guilt. We don't do guilt. Guilt is a shackle. It slows us down, pins us with accountability, and our narcissism always ensures that we reject that accountability. We are not culpable. We are not held to account. If we are, that would affect our sense of control. Any attempt to make us responsible for our behaviour must be met by the manipulative response of the narcissism to ensure that we maintain control and nullify threats to it. And if we felt guilty, this would hamper our ability to assert control, and therefore it must be rejected. We don't do guilt. There is no moment where the narcissist sits alone in the cloaking dark of night and feels the heavy burden of guilt. It is not there. Of course, again, and particularly mid-range narcissists will talk about feeling guilty in order to manipulate. They believe that they feel guilty for the way that they have behaved, and it is done in order to fit in. It is done to elicit a pity play, for example, to exhibit false contrition, fake compassion, all part of the continual manipulation of the mid-ranger. Lesser narcissists may occasionally make reference to guilt, but it is unusual, and the greater and the ultra never do. Finally, number 7. Narcissists do not feel lonely. This is a question I'm often asked. Since you are set apart, HG, in your relational tower, do you not feel lonely? Not at all. I am surrounded by people. I interact with many through my fuel matrix, as all narcissists do, of course, of differing levels of effectiveness. But again, the narcissist does not sit there, cloaked in the shadows, nursing an old-fashioned thinking, I'm so lonely, I'm so lonely. Not at all. Where a narcissist might say that, yet again it is a manipulation, a pity play, a statement designed to assert control and to draw fuel. We do not feel lonely because, first of all, We are invariably involved with so many people because of our need to be around them, because the appliances provide us with fuel. Whilst we can be on our own, that doesn't mean that we would necessarily feel alone. When we are on our own, we can still communicate with other people and receive that fuel. And the narcissist doesn't have that contemplative side to think, I feel lonely. Instead, what it is geared at is that some narcissists will profess to feel lonely as part of a manipulation. But it is not experienced because there is too much to do, too many things to control, the scurrying, the running around, the achieving, the manipulating, the doing. All of those things fill us up, keep us occupied, and we're focused on what's next, what's in front of us. And for the lesser mid-range narcissist, that need, that hand-to-mouth existence, means they're too busy to even contemplate feeling lonely. And it is only stated as such for the purposes of manipulation. There is no moment of reflection to think, I feel lonely. I understand how people might think that my existence is a lonely one. I am nomadic with regard to my interactions with my intimate partner primary sources over time. I forge a path on my own. I am my own resource, other than, of course, the necessity of obtaining fuel. But I am self-reliant in terms of money, ability, intelligence, the resources that I rely upon. But I do not feel lonely. Being me, and me, in essence, me myself, me alone, yet not lonely, is what I have always known. From my very earliest days, I have had to look after HG because nobody else would. And I do not say that to elicit sympathy or pity from you. It is simply a fact. I am proud of my resourcefulness. I am proud of what I've achieved and what I continue to achieve. And again, it is understandable for the empathic individuals that look upon me and think, I think you're lonely. No, I'm not. That is you imposing your worldview on me, and you need not do so. I understand why you do so. I understand the sentiment, but it is not appropriate. We, as narcissists, do not feel lonely. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.